Good morning, gladiators. It's finally Friday, October 30th, the day before spooky Halloween. I know that's a very fun time for you guys. First of all, I want to wish you a safe Halloween. Please be safe out there. Wear your mask. Keep that social distance. Okay, I know you want to have a good time, but we got to be safe. You're important to me. All right, here we go. So today we're going to talk about the Declaration of Independence. Okay, the Declaration of Independence is something that is really important to the United States. One, because we're finally declaring independence from King George III before we go into war. Right, we're about to go into the American Revolution. There are many people that are involved in this decision making. Obviously, you know that there's a lot of tension between the loyalists, those who are loyal to the king, and in the patriots, those that are patriotic, that are tired of it, they want to feel, they feel like it's time to get away from Britain and maybe just have our own country. So because of the thinking of these people, this is where we are today. Many of us celebrate the 4th of July as a day that we declared independence, but that is actually the day that we announced that we are independent from Britain. So a lot of people don't know that, but known fact, okay? There's a lot of wonderful things about this. It's a very interesting document. Believe it or not, the original DFI Declaration of Independence is actually lost. Nobody really even knows where it is. But there were about 200 copies that were made, and I believe the main copy only had two signatures. And later on, there's a conspiracy theory about this. Again, this is not a 100% true statement, but there is a conspiracy theory out there that the original Declaration of Independence is actually lost. It's not lost, it's stored away somewhere, and to this day, nobody knows where it is. So, they did make about 200 copies, and we'll learn about that at the end of the lesson. I'm going to put a video in Schoology, and sorry, my allergies are really bad today. I'm going to put a video in Schoology, and you don't have to watch it, but excuse me, but it does have some very interesting information, and it talks a little bit about those lost documents and what the Declaration of Independence is. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and get started. I spent a lot of time on that. So you're going to watch the Schoolhouse Rock 4th of July video and the Declaration of Independence video. Today, again, we're going to learn about the Declaration of Independence and why we broke free. Now, we have Benjamin Franklin. You've probably seen this snake, right, that's broken into pieces. Join or die, right? We either join and become one nation or we die under King George III. Very interesting. So this is what leads us to the road to the revolution right before we declare independence. A lot of things are happening. Remember, you have all these, the Stamp Act, the Glass Act, the Tea Act, all these things that are happening all at once. All because of the French and Indian War that we fought with the French and the Indians, that costs a lot of money for the colonists or to the colonists. Of course, King George III isn't happy about that because now they owe him money. So this is why he starts implementing all of these acts, these the Stamp Act, the Tea Act, all these acts that is basically a tax that they have to pay on, right? They have to pay back one way or another. And remember, during this time, he doesn't trust them. He feels like, they're not going to do what they said they were going to do. So this is where he starts sending the redcoats, right? The lobsterbacks. He sends his soldiers over to the colonies, and they have to stay in the homes of the colonists. Colonists are not happy about that. Then think about what's happening today. You have your loyalists and your patriots. That's actually happening today in a different manner, but it's still happening in the United States. It's sad, but it's true. Well, during this time, you had the patriots and the loyalists that were fighting just the same as we are arguing today. They were putting tar on people and then putting feathers on them, basically making a mockery of them. And luckily that's not happening, but it's kind of the same thing, right? So right around this time, this starts leading us to the road to the revolution. Then you have the Boston Tea Party, and finally the Boston Massacre. Now, even though only about 5, 6 people got hurt, they still saw it as like, wow, that's enough. You're killing our people, and we got to do something about it. So again, you have the 13 colonies that want to declare independence, and this is because of the French and Indian War that cost America or the colonists a lot of money, right? So after 1763, they're finally in a lot of debt, and somebody has to pay that. So he kind of, the King George III creates this by putting all these acts, right? The taxes, tax on paper goods. Obviously, the colonists were not happy about it, so they petitioned, and for some things they got approved on, but for the most part, they repealed the tax. The tax came back. Many of the colonists felt, but there's no representation. How can you continue to tax us this way? We have nobody to speak up for us. So they get to the point where they get very upset, and they feel that it is time to start reacting to these acts, right? They, especially the fact that they have the quartering act, that they have to have these soldiers staying in their houses, and this is why we have the quartering act number 3, right? Declaration. I'm sorry, Amendment number 3. I always say pretend there's a quarter in here, right? The quartering act basically stating that we don't have to house soldiers anymore because this was ridiculous, right? Then you have the Townsend Revenue Acts, a new duty tax placed on imports, tax lead paper, paint, paper, and glass. But then things start getting really bad after the Boston Massacre, right? They start getting really bad. People start throwing the tea over. They get upset. They're like, well, you know what? If you're going to tax us on the tea, then we're going to just dump it into the Boston Harbor. Okay. Then obviously King George III is not happy about that. Not only does he find out that we're getting other items from Spain and France, right? We're trading, we're getting things from France and Spain. He gets very upset, so he closes the harbor. The people see this as intolerable. This is something, or he says this is an intolerable act. We cannot tolerate this. We're not going to tolerate this anymore. And people start getting very upset because everything that's coming into the colonies, he wants it to come from Britain. He wants the people to pay him, not for people to pay France and Spain. Okay. And then so First Continental Congress meets. It's the delegates, 12 of 13 colonies meet. The only ones that didn't meet was Georgia. But here they're petitioning. They're finding a way. How do we break free from King George III? So what they do is they put together a list of everything that he's done horribly to them. Things that he's hurt them with, all the acts, the cruelty. And this is actually one of the reasons that we finally, that, when we put it on there, it's one of the reasons that we have the declaration and the amendments, because this protects us so that never happens again. Okay. And then after the Lexington and Concord, that is the big war, right? Shot heard around the world, right? First shots of the Revolutionary War. This really upsets people because to this day, we really don't know who shot first, but we have to decide, are we going to fight or are we not going to decide to fight? Then we put our famous president, my favorite, George Washington, as the head of military. Okay. Then we send an olive branch petition to King George asking him for peace. He doesn't even read it. He tears it up. He embarrasses us, right? But then that's okay. We're fine. We'll figure it out. Then comes Thomas Paine. He says, come on, America, or come on, people. We got to have common sense. We can't allow this to happen to us anymore. So, this common sense is really something that opens up people's minds, and they're like, yeah, we need to have common sense, right? We are seriously going through some major issues with King George. So right around July 4th, 1776, this is when they announced that the Declaration of Independence, that we are finally breaking free from King George III. And while this is happening, all our soldiers are at war. My famous George Washington is at war. And we'll learn more about the crisis, another pamphlet that was written by Thomas Paine, next week. All right, so that's what we're working on today. When you're done, you're going to go into Declaration of Independence, day 1. And you are going to answer these questions, okay? But these questions are based from the cartoon. You're going to watch a cartoon and drag and drop. All right? That's all you have to do today, my angels. I will see you in a bit.